Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Oh, there you are. I was hoping I'd cross paths with you today. I'd like to invite you to visit the Storywell. It's a place where storytellers of all stripes gather. From improv performers to authors, screenwriters to playwrights, we all tell stories. But we're not here to talk about craft. We're here to make something out of nothing. Each episode of the podcast, your host, that's me, sits down with a creative person, and based on a series of random prompts, we get elements that we make into a story. Will it be a noir novel about King Kong? Or a Broadway musical about JFK? Even we don't know. That's the fun part. But what do you get out of this, besides a good time with fun people? Simple. The idea is then yours. That's right. Whatever we come up with, we give it away for anyone to use however they'd like, no strings attached. It's like each episode comes with a free prize inside. The Storywell with Kyle Olson. We'll save you a seat at the table.
Okay, now for the lightning round.
I'm so good at lightning rounds. That's from Friends. It's my favorite show.
20 seconds on the clock starts now. Who is the captain of the USS Enterprise?
Oh, crap. Is it, Captain Stubing? No, Morgan? Crunch?
Next question. Which superhero is Tony Stark?
Stark. Did Game of Thrones have superheroes? I only watched 2 episodes.
What planet were Luke and Leia born on?
Planet Fitness?
Oh, time's up. Sorry. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey everybody, Mandy Kaplan here. Please check out my podcast, Make Me a Nerd, where each week an incredible guest tries to baptize this mainstream mom into the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and all things nerdy. Available wherever you podcast.
That's our show, folks.
Wait, I just thought of it. Padme Amidala gave birth to her twins Luke and Leia on Polis Massa. No, that's dumb. Is it Planet Hollywood?
Hello and welcome to the most excellent 80s movies podcast. It's the podcast where a filmmaker, a comedian, and their fabulous podcaster improv teacher guests slash and bleed our way through the 80s movies we think we love or might have missed with these our modern eyes to see how they hold up. And today we're talking about Evil Dead 2 from 1987, about which Letterboxd says, Ash Williams and his girlfriend Linda find a log cabin in the woods with a voice recording from an archaeologist who had recorded himself reciting ancient chants from the Book of the Dead. As they play the recording, an evil power is unleashed, taking over Linda's body. Which is essentially just the beginning of the movie. Thank you, Letterboxd. Here comes the trailer.
Years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Something so frightening. Something so deadly. Something so evil. We prayed it would never happen again. Now, from the creator of Evil Dead comes Evil Dead 2. Dead 2. Dead by Dawn.
All right, so that trailer is really just sounds. so unhelpful in a podcast scenario. Hi, I'm Krissy Lenz, one of the directors at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona. And with me, as ever, is
Nathan Blackwell, independent filmmaker based in Phoenix, Arizona.
And with us tonight on this spooky post-Halloween episode is do you want to introduce yourself or do you want me to introduce you?
I can introduce myself. I'm Nate McWhortor. I'm a performer and teacher at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater in downtown Mesa, Arizona, and co-host of the Gank That Drink podcast with Krissy Lenz.
Yes.
And this is my third time back on the pod, so I'm very excited to be here talking about Evil Dead 2.
Awesome.
So I had definitely seen this movie before, but I think I had only seen it once. And I think it was years and years ago. So it was definitely familiar, but it's not like a go-to holiday classic for me. What about you, Nathan?
Yeah, so I love this movie. This is probably one of my favorite horror films.
Okay.
I definitely gravitate towards horror comedy, or supernatural horror. But yeah, I would, it's not one that, it's not overt. I mean, it's obviously horror. It's obviously comedy. It's not necessarily like overtly Halloween-y.
Right.
And so it's not one that I kind of like revisit at the season. But it's definitely one close to my heart, especially with Sam Raimi at the helm.
Yes, Sam Raimi doing his thing in the most Sam Raimi way. What about for you, Nate?
This is my first foray into the Evil Dead universe, other than listening to NPR interviews with Bruce Campbell. So yeah, I had not seen it, had heard lots of things about it. Obviously you see, like, you scroll through any of the streamers and you see like all the sequels and prequels and the whole universe kind of, but for the original, the OG, and then this one, which are kind of like originals 1 and 2, you don't really see those out there, nor Army of Darkness, but you see like Ash vs. Evil Dead, and you see Evil Dead Rise, and the remake that, who I forget, I'm sure Nathan, you know who offhand, who just did the reboot recent.
Yes, of course. Since we all know, there's no reason to mention his name.
I actually am forgetting in the moment, but I'm sure everyone else knows, and I will be informed later. Because someone put it in the chat, so I don't look like a fool. Anyway, no, I'm excited. And also Sam Raimi. I obviously love the Spider-Man movies, or 1.5 of them. And also For the Love of the Game is a movie I watched a lot as a kid, and it's weird that it's directed by the same guy who also did Multiverse. Yeah, he's had a very interesting career. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's, he's got some ones that are outside of horror. They're not my favorite. It's Sam Raimi is best when he can move his camera more than anyone would normally allow, and when he can use it as just like this cinematic cannon that he can fire at people, usually at his own actors.
Yeah, he is really chasing them down with the camera in this one.
Yeah.
You watch it and you go like, I mean, knowing who directed it, obviously you're just like, oh wow, this is like when you see the Goblin flying in Spider-Man through New York, right? Or where you were following Spider-Man through New York. Like, yeah, it's the Raiminess is obviously so essential in here, but I love then kind of like picking out like, oh, that's Spider-Man, oh, that's this, oh, that's that, kind of throughout his other works too. So yeah, excited to talk about it.
This has the feeling of being distinctly low budge.
Yes, it's true. So Sam Raimi, so if you're wondering if you need to see Evil Dead 1, you don't. I mean, you can. We're not discouraging it, but it's Evil Dead 2 is effectively a remake of Evil Dead 1. But they've got more budget. And yeah, so Evil Dead 1 Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, and their friends, whose name also eludes me. They basically self-financed Evil Dead 1, so it was just all a super micro budget by the skin of their teeth, but that's what kind of like got them going. And they eventually, after doing kind of like a weird, they did the movie Crime Wave, I believe is the name of it, and it was a huge flop. And they did some other stuff, and so basically they wanted to kind of get back to the kind of movies that they love to make. And Evil Dead 2 was really them again kind of coming back to it. I think it was Dino De Laurentiis who funded the second one. And so
he was encouraged by Stephen King, who loved Evil Dead. Who loved
awesome.
the Evil Dead, and Stephen King is the one who basically went to him and said, "You need to finance this movie because I believe in it, and I'm Stephen King." And also,
That's
I just got
awesome.
done doing like a mountain of cocaine like 2 seconds ago.
I'm into it. Yeah, and so I mean, they got more money. It was still a low budget production for sure,
Right.
you know.
Right. But
Um,
a higher low budget production.
Oh yeah, but they were still doing so much with what they had. To kind of understand Evil Dead 2 and also Sam Raimi, it's kind of like, you know, we've heard the term like minimalist filmmaking, but Sam Raimi and like George Miller, who does the Mad Max movies, they do maximalist movies. You know, they instead of doing a lot with a little, they do a lot with a lot, and anyone who sees it is just, it's like, that is bonkers. How the hell could you make a movie like that? It's just so exhausting, the amount of work that they put into it, but they're really trying to make the most out of it and do something huge and outrageous and push the limits, you know. But yeah, if I put my filmmaker cap on and I think about all the stuff that went into that, I get so much stress. I'm super impressed, but I get so much stress about how hard that must have been to make.
Well, and it must have been so hard on Bruce Campbell, who is like basically the only person in the movie for the huge majority of the movie who is acting against himself.
Yes.
And his own hand for a good portion of it. And even when it's not just him doing like the physical work of fighting his own hand, he's doing all the eyebrow and chin work of like just being a
he's burning hundreds of calories just on eyebrow work.
He is, and he does a great job. But like, you know, Bruce Campbell is, of course, this is where the legend begins.
Yes.
But gosh, does he have to work hard? So it's hard on the filmmaker. It's hard on the actors.
Oh yeah. So just to give you, so those who don't know what we're talking about, Nate, can you kind of like give us a slice of like what are some of these scenes like?
They are. It's so interesting watching them in 2024, because I think if you're watching it in 2024 and you're literally seeing these like, just, I mean, you're seeing prosthetics fly across the screen, and it's not like, it's not being hidden that it's a prosthetic, which is where the comedy comes in of this movie. I think, you know, is like, but you have some gore, but I feel like it's like, and I know a lot of movies are this, but for a horror movie, it is like all these little vignettes tied together. It's all these set pieces, all these little things. It was like, now we're here. Now it's time for Bruce to do this, or Ash to do this. Now it's time. And like, I think if you were to take some of the quintessential, I mean, the hand, or the head on the hand scene, which of course, like in my brain, like Krissy was just saying, you're watching Bruce Campbell act against himself, act against his own hand. And you're like, this is amazing.
His hand is possessed.
His hand is possessed. Or when the head bites his hand before it gets, and so he's fighting with the head, and he's getting the head into the thing. And again, you're just acting with dummies. It really is kind of almost like watching someone go insane. I feel like the way that
they put him through the ringer
so fast.
Yes,
right? They get them out there. It's very cabin in the woodsy. And which is already a trope at this time, obviously. and you get him out there and you isolate him right away. You kill the girlfriend off right away.
So I timed it. So 6 minutes into the movie, he is burying his girlfriend.
Yeah. And like not being too worried about it either. He takes that in stride.
Yeah.
The possession and the murder of the sudden decapitation of his girlfriend.
He's a survivor. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of these sequences, it's like his possessed hand is smashing plates into his own face over and over again.
Just watching Roger Rabbit all over again.
Flipping himself over onto the ground, smashing tiles, banging himself with things, knocking himself out. The hand is dragging the whole body to a cleaver to kill him. And then he nails his own hand. So it's just one gag after another, And I'm just seeing like each of these gags, would eat up hours just to set up. There's like scenes where people are thrown across the room and then they smash into a mirror and there's already a pre-created hole behind the mirror that they and then they hit the ground and then blood squirts on people. It's just it's totally bonkers.
Henrietta. I mean, all the Henrietta stuff alone, like the having to film her from the cellar, but then all the shots below, the pull-in Bruce, like all of that stuff. Yeah, just what would have gone into all of those. I mean, it's not. It's a lot.
Yeah, there's like scenes where like he's just going. It's like he's just going down the stairs and he's got his chainsaw strapped to his hand and there's smoke coming off of it, but the smoke is created through like holes in the set and people blowing cigarettes through it.
Really?
It was tobacco smoke. I don't know if there were actually holes in the set, but they were basically like doing that to create the effect. It's like they use the frame right after the moment the crew member like goes out, It's like that's how the whole movie is done.
Wow.
But it's not at all like a student film. It's like we say it's low budget because we can see the prosthetics, we can see kind of a little bit of the zipper, if you will.
Right.
But it's kind of like in a lot of ways it's like if you gave like A-level performers just a little to work with and then they just go nuts with it.
There's a whole sequence where there's 4 people or 5 people at the cabin at this point, and they're just hearing noises and looking around, and it's like noise, look, noise, look, noise, look, noise, look, up to the left, down to the right, over to the left. And it's a whole long sequence.
When I say A-level performers, I don't mean the actors except for Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. So
in fairness, the other actors they fill their roles really well, but Bruce Campbell is a whole other league.
Oh yeah, he is a force unto himself. So we start the movie with a little history lesson about the book, the Necronomicon, which is a portal to other worlds, hitherto unknown, dark worlds. But the book went missing. And that's just our little preview into the beginning. And then we get the couple on their way to a cabin, which I was confused about how he knew about this cabin when he seems to have no ownership of it.
It's so quickly just kind of, it's like, oh, we found this. Let's make out. This is our hangout. What if someone comes over? Oh, it's fine, baby. Like, it's so quickly like, all right, just keep moving under the rug.
Yep. They find a tape recorder and play the tape recorder, which is the voice of the professor who found the book in a castle, reading out loud from the passages, which summons a demon who immediately we get the first of the travel through the forest shot. Yes. So is that just like the camera on a track being sped up? Because there's so much of it in the movie. This
it's not on a track because we'd see the track. And
oh, you're right.
dang it, I feel like I'm gonna lose my filmmaker license.
I read something that the claim is that it is Raimi with a camera mounted somewhere on his upper body on either a bike or motorcycle. This is what I was reading on the IMDb and wiki, was that and I don't know if it's like confirmed, but it is like, yeah, Raimi with a camera supposedly strapped to his head. And I'm like, I don't know how that would have worked.
Yeah,
that would have been heavy, but yeah, somehow strapped to him, and then on a bike or motorcycle. I don't know if he's riding it, someone else is riding it, and he's like on pegs. I don't know. But
this shot in particular is of legend. These shots that are just flying in, because you just didn't see stuff like this before,
Right.
But
It's
what I mean, it's
the evil spirit's perspective.
Yeah, it's flying through the forest. It keeps going. There's no cut. It gets to the house. It smashes the door down, and then it like goes through the house, and it smashes more doors as it's going.
Mm-hmm.
Stations with ropes.
Yeah, it's flying over items. It's insane, and I love that moment. The best one is when it's like the second one, when it's chasing after Bruce Campbell, and at some point it loses him, and it stops. It looks
and
left.
It looks around.
It looks right. I can't seem to find it, and then it just goes out the door.
Yeah, that was my favorite too. So the girlfriend gets possessed immediately. She goes all possessy, and he decapitates her, like we said, minute 6, and buries her. And then he has his own little dance with the demon where he gets spun around and dragged through the woods. He gets possessed, but the sun comes up, and the demon doesn't like the sun, so it just bails. This demon gives up pretty easily.
The rules are established.
Yeah, no demons in the sunlight. So he tries to drive away, but the bridge that they came in on is all torn up, which is a really cool effect. It looks like a big hand curling in towards the road. So he has to try and get away from the spirit. As you said, Nathan, he outruns it. Then we cut to a plane landing, which has our other characters in it. It's Annie and her boyfriend, who are the daughter of the professor, who has some rogue pages from the Necronomicon that she found that she's going to take to her dad to do some research on. But they haven't heard from the dad in over a week. Ooh, it's probably just because the cabin is so remote and there's no phone out there. So Ash is just sitting in the cabin. He's boarded up the windows and the doors. And this we get the, is it claymation of the dead body of his girlfriend dancing with her own head and then just leaping away and never coming back?
Stop animation.
Okay.
Yes.
What did you guys think of that
more
part?
janky effects.
Yeah.
Admittedly.
This was the moment. This was, like I said, I said it before the show off air, but I had also watched It Chapter 2 the same day as this, and this was one of the homages I believe that It Chapter 2 makes to Evil Dead. Is the way this creature is animated is very similar to how a very much CGI creature is animated in It Chapter 2, which is haunting.
Oh, the naked old lady Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But they look they're stylized very similar with like the legs, the way the proportions, everything were, the color. I was just like the nakedness. I was like all of it. I was like It Chapter 2 like literally lifted this. I love it. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that as a filmmaker?
Well, yeah, like I said, maybe that I mean, homages are wonderful.
Yes.
But yeah, the sequence was the stop animation sequences are admittedly a little janky, and the practical visual effects, are fantastic. But yeah, the stop animations, they're just, I mean, admittedly, they're a little rough.
Yeah.
But God bless them, they're still fun.
Yes, they are. The head pops up and bites him. As we said, he does a whole lot of physical comedy, just slapping the head around and like trying to get the head off and smacking it around the whole building. Finally, he traps it in a vice and looks for the chainsaw, but the body's got the chainsaw. What? So he has to fight the body for the chainsaw. He finally gets it. He chainsaws the body, and then he chainsaws the head.
Yeah, and again, this is where Bruce Campbell is really just like knocking it out of the park. Not only for when he is being a little over the top, and
He
slaps.
can't see the top from where he is. He's so far over the top. He can't. It's just a dot on the
He
horizon.
gets the slapstick. He gets the slapstick, and he also gets the tortured protagonist.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi. Again, this reminds me of like George Miller. Is that Sam Raimi just loves to torture his heroes. He loves to torture his protagonists. It's not enough for them to have the worst day of their life. He has to just beat the living crap out of them over and over and over again. And it's really, their heroics is just sheer survival.
Yeah. Making it through.
Yeah.
And then there's Spider-Man 3. Which you could say he tortured his hero in that movie too.
Yeah.
And
maybe he was the hero and he was getting tortured.
Maybe. So the car comes with the girlfriend and the boyfriend, or the daughter and the boyfriend. They can't cross the bridge. The bridge is out. This is where they meet the tow truck driver, or just a regular truck driver, but the man in the truck, Jake, and his girlfriend, Bobby Joe, who oddly have a very antagonistic relationship right from the start.
Mm-hmm.
They pay him $100 to take them on the trail through the woods to the cabin.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a disproportionate amount of difference between Bruce Campbell's character and then everyone else. Everyone else kind of fits into the bodies to be killed off. You know, very kind of like, horror archetypes. It's like, the truck driver and Bobby Joe are kind of almost from like Night of the Living Dead, like the backwards hicks who are just there to be argumentative and to counter whatever the hero thinks we should do. And then you've got like the stuffy uptight bookworms.
Yes, and they're all thrown into this cabin together because but before they get there, we get all of the business with the hand being possessed, and he's smashing dishes into his head, and he chops off his own hand with the chainsaw and puts it in a bucket under some books. One of the books is A
Here's your
Farewell
home
to
now.
Arms.
Yeah.
But of course, the hand escapes and taunts him. Blood shoots out of the walls. There's a whole sequence where the deer head gets possessed and the whole house is laughing.
Yeah,
Bruce Campbell is laughing and the whole house is laughing.
Yeah, the deer head on the wall, the hunting trophy.
That was real Pee-wee energy.
Yeah.
Real Pee-wee energy. That's
But it's even more torture for Bruce Campbell. It's like, okay, you just did the whole fight with just the head. Now you did the whole fight with just your hand. Now we're going to do a whole sequence where it's just you laughing and the house laughing with you.
Yeah. We've got to mention, we are like legally obligated to mention the workshed moment.
Yes, please. Take over for me.
It's a classic. It's a classic horror reference, but it was so. He is laying on the ground. He's got to. This is when the I think this is when he's dealing with his girlfriend. Yeah, his girlfriend. But
it's the head on the hand.
Yeah, the head on the hand.
Yeah.
But we see him get up from the ground, and it's completely just 80-yard work shed. And his mouth doesn't move. They just put it in later, and then he goes to the work shed. It's such an iconic moment, and it just like it doesn't hide a lot of these jokes. Like it leans into it, but it's such a classic moment because it's so obviously just added on. I read that when Kurt Russell worked with Bruce Campbell on Escape from LA, Kurt Russell said to him, "Say work shed. Say work shed."
Yeah, work shed.
Which I love also when he says chainsaw too. It's again like
Chainsaw.
the chainsaw's missing, and so there's a chalk outline of a chainsaw on the wall.
Chainsaw died,
and he just says chainsaw.
I loved the work shed moment only because I love being able to catch 80-yard lines in anything, right? And because I think it happens so often, and I think we're so used to it now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it happens way more often now than ever before. I don't know, maybe because it's so easy to do now, but yeah, I didn't know it was a thing until then. Yes, I was doing research and saw that apparently it is a thing. But it was definitely a moment that stuck out in my brain. I was like, wow, that was a really, really bad 80-yard line. But I'm like, what are you gonna do? It's the budget if you didn't get it at the time. Well, and like the Campbell fighting his hand, I think they said that was a one take. Like,
that's nuts.
I think I read that was a one take, that he improvised the whole thing. Did it in one take, first take, done. Raimi was like, love it, moving on. Or we can't afford to do it a second time.
Those are our only plates.
We don't have the plates in the budget anymore. Sorry.
Hopefully it's good.
Bruce, did you have to break all the plates? Yes, I had to break all the plates. So they knock out Bruce Campbell and toss him in the basement. And since they can't find the mom and dad, they play more of the tape recording where the dad reveals that he has killed his wife who got possessed and buried her in the cellar. So then we get a hilarious fight between Ash and this dead mom wife character where he has to escape her and get out of the cellar. They all work together to get him out of the cellar and trap her down in the cellar. And he sort of tells them, here's what's what. Everything's possessed. We're in danger. The boyfriend gets possessed. And when Ash axes him, it's a fountain of green. So we've had a fountain of blood already. We've had blood squirting out of the walls. We've had blood coming everywhere. But the boyfriend's blood is apparently green. What? Why?
We also get, and then later we get a fountain of blue blood too.
We do. But that comes from a demon, so the demons could have blue blood. Why does this Chet guy have green
blood?
Yeah.
Well, there's a scientific answer. I don't know if we have time to go into it.
Okay. So the room, the door to a room creaks open and Ash is like, we'll all go in together. And the tow truck driver goes, hell no, you're the curious one. You go in there. So it's the ghost face and the ghost dad who tells them that to get rid of the evil, they have to read the pages that she found from the book.
Right. So she has the vital pages of how to dispel the demon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so basically the first verse makes it real. The second verse opens a portal, and then the third verse is profit. I
Yeah.
what it is.
We're also lucky that she can read these hieroglyphs though, because like apparently her and her dad are the only ones who can read them. Without a reference book.
Nothing. She just like straight up top of her domes, like, oh yeah, this is how. My dad was studying how to decode it in the cabin by himself, but like I did it on the plane. The 16-hour flight from Jordan. I knocked it out.
She's a professional. It is her profession.
Yes, and thank God for it.
Maybe?
So there's a
Go
really
ahead,
great
Nate.
scene.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you go.
Sorry. Okay, Krissy, I would say we're experts in the supernatural.
Of course,
Okay.
in only the show Supernatural.
In only the show Supernatural. So let's apply that to this movie real quick with the theory that this woman and her boyfriend, who are part of this family archaeological collective that goes around the world finding these dead scripts and scrolls and stuff, would they not know? And maybe they wouldn't, because we obviously know they don't always know what they're dealing with in these situations, but like, she's like, oh, it could be a portal to another world. They're already open to the idea of supernatural stuff. She says this in her very first scene. We may have found a portal to another world. So like, she is so cavalier about everything supernatural that then goes on.
Yes.
Like,
Very
would
much
she
so.
not be like, oh shoot, this was a possibility we all knew it probably could have happened because we're all experts in this field. And that's why, and she seems completely caught off guard. Like, how could my mom get possessed? My dad was just reading the incantations of the Book of the Dead
into a tape recorder.
Right. So I just these would be if our boys were to stumble upon this cabin and put her in a salt circle and do the whole shebang. We would be like roasting her constantly, because I think she would be a terrible. She'd die. She'd get killed.
Well, Sam and Dean would never read aloud from a book, and I guess none of them read aloud from it. It was the dad into the tape recorder that read aloud from the book. But yes, one look at the book will tell you it's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
It has an angry face on the cover.
The tip off is that it's bound in human skin.
Yeah. That's what lets you know.
Cover or what it's.
I guess, it's like, not to make excuses for her, but I was recently watching a video on the Dunning-Kruger effect. Where you think it's, you think you're at the peak of all knowledge and you're actually just kind of entering the world, but it's at that point your confidence is at the highest. It's kind of like it's like Joe Rogan. It's like you think you're the absolute expert because you've broken on to stage 2, but in reality, it goes down and you've got to learn all the lessons, and then you realize how hard and difficult everything is. So maybe she was like, I'm top shit. We know what we're doing, and then the realization is like, oh shit, I don't know what the fuck.
Oops, my boyfriend is now possessed and has got a creepy long stop animation neck, and I've got to chop him up into green pieces.
And to be fair, there was a lot of emotions going around. It's a lot of stuff fly out the window when that happens.
It's true. Although nobody except for the tow truck driver is really upset that their BF or GF gets axed or chainsawed.
Yeah. It's possible he was just arm candy.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say, but it was pretty great.
There's a really cute moment, yes, for Bobby Joe, where she's like, Jake, you're holding my hand too tight. And he goes, Bobby Joe, darling, I'm not holding your hand. So we see the evil hand is back, and she takes off like a shot into the forest. She just runs away and gets eaten by trees. Jake then steals the shotgun from Ash and insists that they're all going to trope out into the woods and find Bobby Joe. He throws the pages down into the cellar, which is like the ultimate dick move. We don't need these dumb pages. At least he didn't throw them in the fire.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought he was going to do, and thank God he didn't. Yeah. So,
just give those demon spells to the demon.
Yeah. Give it to the
that's
demon.
Cool.
That's cool. That's cool.
So when they're out in the woods, Ash gets possessed again, and Jake and Annie run away. She accidentally stabs him with a spine sword.
Yeah.
A sword that's made of spine.
Coolest prop in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coolest prop in the whole movie.
But he doesn't die. I was like, Jake's dead. And then in my notes, I had to be like, nope, he's not dead. He's fine. Oh, wait. 5 seconds later, he's dead because he gets sucked down into the cellar and the mom shoots him out in a fountain of blood.
So I'm wondering, so there's 3 of these movies, but effectively this is saying like this is the first one, you know?
Mhm.
You know, so he's supposed to be eventually with Army of Darkness, the next one. He's like the chosen one, the special one.
Yeah.
So do we think that there is something special about him?
Yes.
Because he was able to repel. Obviously, he was initiated by seeing his girlfriend's locket, and so he remembered who he was. But no one else comes back from possession, do they?
No, just Ash.
So the question is he the only one that has that kind of moment where he's able to remember and pull that out of him? Do you think that's something that anyone could do, or Ash is special in that regard?
I think that we're meant to believe that Ash is special and that he's got these sort of powers because like he is able to trap the possession in his hand and cut it off. And then as soon as he sort of gets activated, we get we're about to get the scene where he sort of tools up and like straps the chainsaw to his where his hand should be and puts the shotgun on his back and is like groovy. So I think that we're meant to believe that he is sort of a chosen one who's been thrust into greatness, as
The
they
hero
would say.
rising.
I mean,
Yeah.
they literally
Yeah.
say that and she shows the picture of the ancient text or whatever, and it's a little
Right.
cartoon of a man with a chainsaw for an arm.
Yeah.
These
And they're
ancient
not
texts.
Uh-huh.
They're not like, oh wait, and it's a blue shirt. We're doing you. This is you.
I think he is the chosen one. I think they make it pretty clear. They're like, yeah, no, he's a special one.
Yeah. So they have to go down in the cellar to get the pages. So they tool up. Ash goes down to the basement and finds the pages. They kill the mom demon. All of a sudden, the trees start to attack and eat the house. The trees are eating the house. A big face tries to force itself through the door because she's done the first part of the chant. She gets killed by the hand and the spine sword. So the trees are going to feed Ash to the face. He chainsaws the eye, and this is where we get the blue goo squirting out now. Blue goo. We've had red and green. Now we get blue. But she wakes up and lives just long enough to finish the passage, to open the rift, and Ash gets sucked into the portal with his car. He's in medieval times now. He kills a flying demon, and they all hail him as the man who came from the sky to save us from the Deadites.
Which is a pretty great way to end.
A pretty great way to end. And he's just like, well, shit, I guess I'm here now. I guess this is where I live now.
I literally woke up this morning and I could not remember how this movie ended. I woke
Because
up and
it ends with
I
the
was
beginning
like,
of Army of Darkness.
I thought I fell asleep. I really did. I was like, do I have, before we record, do I have to go back and watch the last 20 minutes of this movie? And I was like, no. And then I started reading some of the things, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, now I remember how it ended.
Yeah.
Completely out of left field bonkers.
Yep.
Other than being set up by the one picture of the glyph of him with the chainsaw. But like, I was like, it's Monty Python.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is and I'm not saying that just because it goes medieval times, but it is straight up Holy Grail ending of like,
Yeah.
and we're out of money. This is the end. This is the end. Like, that's what it felt like so much. But the last 20 minutes of this movie are insane. They're insane.
Yeah.
When he fights the big, I forget what they call it, the apple, whatever the production team called this beast of a thing that couldn't even make it back to California. Like that goes on. It goes on a long time. That it's only an 86-minute movie, but the last 20 minutes feel like an entire movie. And it does feel like, it feels kind of like 3 separate movies, or three movies in it. It's not like smashed into one in these like 90 minutes. They do a really good job of like beginning, middle, and end. But I don't know if it's beginning, middle, and end, or just like beginning
Beginning,
and
middle,
just
next
a
beginning.
whole bunch of shit, and then next beginning. I loved it. I just and of course, like I'm like, how could I forget how this movie ended? It ends with him going back in time. Like, what's wrong with me? So I thought it was wonderful, but it did feel so very Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to note that that Sam Raimi's car is in every one of his movies.
And it's the Oldsmobile, right?
Yeah, Delta 88, I think is what it's called. And yeah, every single one of his movies, he manages to put that car in it.
Well, he sort of destroys the car when it lands in medieval times.
There may have been more than one.
Okay. So Nate, you say you love this movie. On a scale of 1 chainsaw hand to 10 chainsaw hands, how many chainsaw hands do you give Evil Dead 2?
I'm gonna give it 7 chainsaw hands and 1 possessed hand.
Okay.
So
is that like a 7.5?
Yeah, basically. Because I don't know. I think that it's a movie that does good of paying of paying a lot of like homages to some earlier horror and doing a lot. Obviously, like it's parodying a lot of things, but at the same time, it's a movie that has thusly been parodied. Since I think there's enough original stuff in it. I do love. I mean, the production company is called Rosebud. We talked about Nathan. You talked about Sam Raimi using these flying shots on this shoestring budget, doing things that no one would let him do. Well, one of the reasons why Orson Welles, why Citizen Kane is considered one of those great masterpieces, is because it's famous for being the first movie to really give you depth of field shots and all this in camera stuff that had never really been done before, and then it becomes the norm, becomes the standard. So I think it's interesting that production company, and also I guess the sounds that you hear on those flying shots are Sam Raimi's voice and Orson Welles himself making this his last, like I think his last appearance or whatever is what I read. So I think that it is. I'm not comparing it to Citizen Kane necessarily. I'm not saying
no. Go ahead.
Kane of horror movie.
Yeah.
But I think there are so many things in there. I think you watch Cabin in the Woods and you're just like, oh, this is someone who literally just watched Evil Dead and now it's made a parody, right? Like the bridge is out, the everything, it takes it, but it's in itself is doing the parody. That's what I don't know. I love movies like that. So 7.5 for me.
Okay, excellent. How many chainsaw hands do you give it, Nathan?
I think so. I'm gonna go high. I think technically, I would give it like an 8.8.
Okay.
But maybe that means I need to round it up to 9, just so.
Yeah, if you're gonna go 0.8. Yeah,
right, exactly. So I'm just saying, I may have given some movies a 9. It may not stand toe to toe with all of the ones I've given a 9, but I want you to understand how important the movie is, like and it's tough because like what Nate said, like pre-CGI or even when CGI was terrible, this movie is a 10, and now it's tough because of the production value.
Right.
I wouldn't hold that against it though. I don't. Yeah. I try not to hold movies against it's really like technology and stuff.
I guess I'm saying that as if you've never seen it and you're seeing it for the first time, and if you're like showing it to your kids, they're going to be a little more jaded in terms of what they expect. But yeah, as a film lover who's able to put things in perspective, I don't discount at all on that. But yeah, it and then so how do you feel?
I give it an 8 because I really enjoyed watching it. I think it's both fun and funny. It's totally creative. It's totally as much as we talk about it being similar to other scary movies and all the tropes of the cabin in the woods and the bridge is out and all this. I think it's totally original. I think Bruce Campbell is a star. He's a star, baby. So I give it an 8. An 8.
Excellent.
And what about a deep cut recommendation?
Ooh, yeah, this is tough.
Was it tough? I have 2.
Ooh, I may need to. So, I think I've got one. So it's Sam Raimi is very specific. There's not many people who are Sam Raimi-esque. The closest I can think of is a movie that Sam Raimi would have done, but he didn't do is Raising Arizona. That's not my recommendation, but it's tough to compare him to other people, you know?
Yeah.
So my recommendation is going to be another Sam Raimi movie, and this is so I was thinking it's like, you know, he just puts his characters through the ringer, and this is his movie Drag Me to Hell is
Yeah.
like that at 100 miles per hour, but with way more horror than comedy. It's really not much of a comedy, as I remember. And he just puts Alison Lohman through the ringer for the whole movie. And part of my recommendation is also Alison Lohman on Twitter, because she hasn't done much acting. She hasn't done too much acting lately, but she's on Twitter and she has such a sense of humor about that movie in particular, where people are like posting clips about it, like her just being dumped on with like blood and gore and bugs, and like the caption is like, look what he put her through, and her response is, tell me about it, you know. And so she just has you know, she has a great kind of like sarcastic engagement with the fans on that movie, which is fun.
I love it. That's a great recommendation. Good job. Do you have one, Nate?
I do. I thought about going with either like another classic horror. I definitely wouldn't recommend Sam Raimi's For the Love of the Game unless you just want to be like confused and sad for a night. Wonder why Kevin Costner is destructive. But
I like that movie.
I need to rewatch it, but man, the last couple times I watched it, I remember being like, oof, this is rough. J.K. Simmons, John C. Reilly, lovely in it. Anyway, not the movie I'm recommending. I am going to recommend a horror movie. It's a movie I watched last Halloween, and I just kind of caught it on TV or HBO or whatever. It's a year after Evil Dead 2 comes out. It's 1988. The movie is Pumpkinhead. Yes, Pumpkinhead.
I've never even seen it.
It is interesting. I think it fits right in. It's basically like, obviously like a movie someone made for not a whole lot of money, that was like, hey, slasher films are all the rage. All these movies are making tons of money. Like, let's get after it. The plot of the movie is like pretty, like, it's pretty okay. Like, I don't know. I enjoyed it. Mayim Bialik, like a very young Mayim Bialik, she's like in it, but not like in it. She's like a little kid in it or whatever. It doesn't have any actors you'd recognize. It is directed by, I had it up, Stan Winston.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And I don't know. Again, it's a pretty good like Halloween-y if you're gonna put something on. It's definitely like Halloween. I wouldn't say like Evil Dead. I think you could watch in February and you're good. But I don't know if I'd be in the mood to watch Pumpkinhead outside of Halloween season.
Yeah.
Krissy, when is this episode airing?
in November.
Hey, it's never too late. It's never too
never too
late.
late.
But I mean, pumpkin pie. You could go
Oh,
for a little.
absolutely. There we go. Yeah.
So that's my
Okay.
recommendation, that Pumpkinhead, because it's a movie I hadn't seen till kind of recently, and I'd never heard of it, and I like it. So it is a deep cut.
Awesome.
A deep
Awesome.
cut
I dig it.
indeed. So you actually mentioned one of mine a couple of times, Nate. It's the 2011 movie, The Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
Directed by Drew Goddard. Because I kept thinking about it when I was like, they're at
Yeah.
the cabin in the woods. It's a cabin in the woods. There's no way out now, and we're stuck here, and we've got all these tropes. And you read aloud from the book, and that awakened the spirits.
Mhm.
And there's a tape. I think there's a tape recorder in the Cabin in the Woods house, which is definitely like a nod.
Yeah.
Like there, I was thinking so much about it because there is nods to this movie in it for sure.
Mhm.
And I love that movie, and I think it's a good all the time horror movie, not necessarily a Halloween movie, which, by the way, for us, it is Halloween. It's Halloween.
Mhm. It's October 28th. Yeah.
This is going to come out in November. But for us, we're in the time machine. It's Halloween, so you can deal with our Halloweeniness.
Yeah.
Deal with our weenies.
You deal with our weenie? Is that what you
I said Halloweenies. No, I didn't.
My other deep cut recommendation is a trip that I took recently to Universal Studios and participated in the Halloween Horror Nights, which was really fun and just reminded me of this movie a lot, because you get to go through these haunted mazes and haunted houses, and of course it's all like real prosthetic effects because it's all real people. So it felt very Evil Dead 2 to me. Maybe not quite as much blood as we're dealing with in Evil Dead 2. But these poor actors having to do this same thing over and over and over again as more and more people walk through the houses. And there's like actors out running around scaring you as you walk around. So I would also like to recommend Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios as my other deep cut recommendation. Nate, where can people find you and support your wonderful podcast that you do, as well as your improv comedy?
You can listen to Gank That Drank on any of your podcast apps or at truestory.fm. Become a member today and get a bunch of bonus content and chit chat and fun stuff. And in the real world, you can find me at the Neighborhood Comedy Theater, downtown Mesa, Arizona, doing shows on Thursday nights. Thursday. That's the only night we do shows. No, I'm just kidding. We also do Friday and Saturday, but we're really trying to drum people up for this Thursday night show. So if it's Thursday night, I know Thanksgiving's coming up. We're probably not doing it that night, but
no, and we're not doing it on Halloween.
We're not doing it on Halloween either. But yeah, come on out, come on down, check out some live improv comedy in Mesa, which is happening.
Awesome. Nathan. We already did Nate. Nathan. Where can people support your filmmaking endeavors? Where can they see possible horror movie type stuff you may have made? And where can they see your main movie?
Yeah, so Squishy Studios, squishystudios.com or Squishy Studios on the YouTubes. And the last movie ever made is on Amazon and Apple for rent or purchase.
Yeah. When is it? Do you know when it's gonna be streaming free?
No. And
okay.
God damn it, people, just pay the $3, okay? Come on.
It's worth so much more than $3. For God's sake, pay the $3. For crying out loud. For crying in the corn maze.
I think it is.
$3.
I think it is hitting Tubi in January.
Okay.
But yeah, so in the meantime, and it yeah, so that's all I know so far.
Awesome. Thank you for listening and sticking around with us at the end. If you're here with us at the end, we appreciate you so much. Please do all the things help podcasts to continue to exist, like rate, review, thumbs up, subscribe, tell a friend, and consider becoming a member at True Story FM. It's just $5 a month, and you get all sort of extra goodies, including some extra chitty chat. Which we're about to record with Nate and Nathan. So you get to hear that if you're a member. And if you're not, you don't. So
Jeez,
that's
we're being
both.
really punitive lately.
We are. Well, it's the Halloween season, even though for you it's November. So thank you for listening. And while you're out there in the world, please keep the most excellent 80s movies podcast motto in mind. Be excellent to each other and party on, dudes. What's up, dudes? It's your totally tubular friends, Nathan Blackwell and Krissy Lenz, here for the most excellent 80s movies podcast, here to urge you to become a sustaining member of the pod.
For just a few bucks a month, you can support the most excellent 80s movies podcast and get all kinds of rad perks and stuff in the mix.
Yeah, like for example, you get each episode a week early, as though you have your own personal DeLorean into the future.
Plus, you get special bonus content at the end of every episode.
And you want more of that sweet, sweet Nathan and Krissy banter.
Plus, you get access to the TrueStory.fm discussion board on Discord, so you can join the conversation there too.
So head up to TrueStory.fm today, click on our show page, and sign up to become a member today. Party on, dudes!